Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Hex Token Channel. Your host, Setman in the house. This is our third Pulse Chain video in the short form video series. Of course, this is going to be how fast will Pulse Chain grow. You can check out the first two videos, Pulse Chain Explained, and of course, how big will Pulse Chain be on the channel. We're going to get into it, folks. How fast will Pulse Chain grow? Let's go. And of course, I love this picture. Doesn't it inspire you around Pulse Chain? It's going to be pretty amazing. Let's get into it. So we've got the first wave of Pulse Chain growth. It's going to be pretty exciting. The price, of course, going to get priced up from zero and, of course, get priced up for the market. So what will it end up being? We will find out. So let's get into it. We're going to add the timeframes at the end of this presentation. We've got retail and sacrifices. Now, we know that Pulse Chain Sacrifice ran through from the 15th of July through to the 4th of April. And, of course, we also had the PulseX Sacrifice running through from the 28th of December all the way through to the 4th of April as well. Now, obviously, some people are still sacrificing because the word's still getting out there. People are still doing it, but the official period did close. Now, we probably had around about 45,000 people sacrifice with Pulse Chain, and probably around about 145,000 for PulseX, plus or minus a few thousand there on other chains. And, of course, it was huge. So we've got like a 1-to-3 ratio between Pulse Chain and PulseX wallets. It's going to be pretty exciting to see that. I would suspect that a few of those are Genesis wallets that people have set up just so they have more Genesis wallets for any airdrops, but that's a point aside. We're going to have, obviously, a lot of retail coming in the first wave because of the fact that Pulse Chain will be the biggest airdrop in crypto history, of course, onto a proof of stake chain. And, of course, that's going to be super exciting. So we're going to have a massive amount of people already invested through the sacrifice phases. And, of course, then retail adoption with the biggest airdrop. It's going to be absolutely crazy as well. The second thing, of course, we're going to have venture capitalists, large holders. We've already got, maybe some people talk about us having something like 6 to 8 potential billionaires involved in Hex and Pulse Chain. And, of course, we know that one of the biggest whales, Overwatch, Rack and Rochelle, and, of course, with their partnership with Everything Blockchain, doing amazing a number of things. Not only are they the leaders in the sacrifice wallets, but also they have a massive amount of businesses launching on Pulse Chain. So they've got EB Exchange, EB Control. They're going to have fiat on-ramp, off-ramp from the looks of it, coin listing side as well. So that's going to be super, super good. And, of course, that's going to be based out from the looks of it from Saudi. And, of course, we're looking for a huge marketing from them as well, obviously with huge capital to do that. So I think that's going to be pretty exciting to see where that evolves, and they potentially have other products coming too. So that's an early out of the gate player, obviously super involved, and, of course, looking to add massive value to the chain. That is awesome. That's a major fundamental. And that's in the first wave, of course. The yield fund is coming, obviously, with PulseX. And, of course, the biggest airdrop in crypto history for the Pulse Chain, with the first full system state copy of Ethereum. We will end up having, between those two things, Pulse Chain and PulseX, massive yield farmers coming for the liquidity pools. So, obviously, the AMM bot is going to harvest all the liquidity pools and DEXs out everywhere else, like Uniswap and SushiSwap and possibly Balancer and Banker and things like that. And, of course, making potentially the biggest DEX liquidity out there. And, of course, matching that with the dual token system of PulseX and with the super buy and burn, potentially $1 million of trade volume equals about $7,000 of buy and burn value, as obviously the incentive token there for yield farmers, which is going to be reduced. The emission of that's going to be reduced over time. So I think there's going to be some massive incentives that play with the airdrop, the incentive token, and PulseX. It's going to be amazing to see that. And yeah, so yield farmers going to come over in droves. They move very fast, and huge liquidity comes in. Now, obviously, chains compete for liquidity, and as you can see, this is already going to be amazing. Now, obviously, to pin that off, the big first trade, of course, is the automatic market maker bot, which is going to harvest the ETH pairs and, of course, and swap over for Pulse and then lock that liquidity into PulseX. And, of course, on top of that, we're going to expect a lot of custom projects to put their trading pairs on there. And then, of course, when the bridge opens up, to say 1 or 2 days later, we'll see a lot of bridge pairs coming in there too. So that potentially we could have thousands and thousands and thousands of trading pairs operating on that exchange. And, of course, it's going to be fascinating. Everything prices up from zero, and then it's going to get priced up in the market. So lots of cool things happening there. Obviously, in the first wave, we're also going to have, it's largely going to be bi-directional from what we can tell. In other words, it will have a official pulse ramp bridge. And, of course, that will bridge us to Ethereum, and we'll have people assets being able to go via wrapped tokens on either side and of course set up into liquidity pools. We're expecting some pretty big liquidity pools as hints have been given around the HEX trading period, for example, having huge liquidity between bonding HEX on Ethereum and HEX on PULSEChain. So we're looking forward to a lot of that, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to obviously have, with everyone getting all their airdrops, a lot of ratio trading, people trading for Pulse and PulseX and all that sort of stuff is going to be going on in the first day or two before the bridge opens up. Once the bridge opens up, the pricing of the market with stable coins coming in is going to be super huge for PulseChain, and all the players will come in. The Pulse Ramp bridge, of course, is going to be the fastest way to mass adoption, combined with all the incentives from PulseX with the dual token system and incentive token and PulseX token. Plus, on top of that, we've got the biggest airdrop in there, and of course, everything's getting priced up from zero. So it's going to be fun times there, and we could see absolutely explosive retail adoption straight out of the gate, and of course, supported by some very large early VCs and large capital owners. So it's going to be a lot of fun. The next phase, of course, wave number two is huge, potentially huge. That's coming up. Of course, the price expected to go up and up and up there. Now, the gap between first wave and second wave is not too big, and we'll talk about that at the end there. But of course, we look like we're going to have leverage lending coming in and stable coins. And of course, stable coins helps with risk management, and of course, DeFi. And the other one is that we're going to have leverage lending. So people put their Pulse into liquid lines, and then they borrow USDL. So we have a beautiful stable coin for DeFi for PulseChain. It's so good to have that, of course, based on the super successful liquidity protocol on Ethereum with its LUSD stable coin, which has done so well, especially after Terra Luna and others fall from grace. So it's going to be pretty cool. And that is going to be a major pump mental. So any gap, any dip in the price of Pulse, for example, is potentially going to be very short-lived with this leverage lending coming in. We're also going to have Fiat, a fork of Aave, obviously one of the biggest lending deposit banking platforms. That's coming on too, and that's going to be absolutely awesome for the small, particularly for the smaller retail, but also for the very large players. We could end up having a lot of fancy products end up growing on that too, like flash loans and basic leverage and many other things in there, debt refinancing, interest rate refinancing, etc. So lots of financial products building off that. Now, the other thing, of course, is that could be multi-chain too. Early retail, of course, we're going to have early retail adoption through that official Pulse Ramp bridge. It's going to be super exciting, and potential other solutions with Power City Transformer, for example, multi-EVM cross-chain swap bridges and stuff like that. So we could have lots of flourishing things happen. It's going to be absolutely exciting to see that. Compounders, of course, with Power City, going to be compounding. So if you've got any dApps that you can compound your returns, those are very popular. So we're going to see that happen too with the Power City amplifier, which is going to public testnet very soon. And it's going to be fun to see that. Aggregators, of course, being able to aggregate as well. They're going to be in the market. And of course, cross-chain, looking at cross-chain features there, cross-chain bridges like Power City. So we're going to see a lot of utility players coming in to the second wave very, very quickly. It's going to be a lot of fun. EB Exchange, of course, from Overwatch, Rackham Shell. That's probably going to come in around the second wave. It may start off in the first wave, but certainly by the second wave, it probably will be up and running. And of course, that's potentially going to be very good for bringing in new capital, and of course allowing some sort of centralized exchange there for a PulseX and Pulse listing. So it's going to be fun with that. Fiat on-ramps, of course, should come with that too. And Richard's also talked about that being the final leg of his vertical integration, that being PulseChain, PulseX, MetaMask replacement, and of course Fiat on-ramp, off-ramps. So that looks like we may have more than one solution for that. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Well, of course, that may or may not be launched at this time. So maybe the second wave possibly may be out earlier. Just depends on when PulseChain launches. And of course, the Heart Wallet, we're looking forward to that. That may have some new gamification features in there. We will find out, and we will find out whether it's very close to the Internet Money Wallet as well, with the ownership sharing there. So we're going to see what differences that in. Obviously, there may be a big sacrifice, or we're expecting a big sacrifice attached to that as well. So that would actually be beneficial for HEX players also. We're going to have a lot of cool stuff happening there. And of course, that's the second wave of value creation. The third wave is going to be awesome too. Obviously, the price keeps going up. And of course, the early institutions come into play. They see how valuable everything's being priced up from zero by all the supply and demand players that we just mentioned. And of course, early institutions start coming in. That may be led by our very own, HEX Investment Trust or other players. So it's going to be fun to see that. Big investors also that would come in, institutions, corporates, retirements, houses and stuff like that. BlackRock, even people like that could potentially come in. Exchanges, of course, they start to capitulate if they're not already on One has already indicated to Richard that they're coming on. Obviously, you've got EB Exchange as well. So we could at least have 2 exchanges coming in the early days. And of course, we may get more capitulation as the market values up, go into the most valuable chains. And we expect PULSECHAIN to be one of those. So it's going to be a lot of fun. The other thing, of course, Hex goes viral. Obviously, we'll have probably the highest of stakes out by then. And of course, PULSECHAIN as well. Hex virality, getting a two Hex on one chain, of course, likely to be the bigger liquidity pair, so it's going to be super huge too. And of course, that wealth transfers into goes in a circular motion between PulseX, and Hex, of course. And of course, all the trading on PulseX is going to feed into the wealth creation for those Richard Hart tokens. It's going to be epic. Now, DAP boom, of course, we already got a DAP boom going before PulseChain even launches. Got about 130 projects or so already built native to PulseChain. That's in addition to all the projects that are getting copied on the Ethereum fork. And of course, that's over 550,000 ERC20 tokens are coming. And of course, a massive amount of NFTs as well. I think it's well over 75,000, something like that. So it's going to be absolutely epic to see that. So we're going to have a DAP boom that will continue. So moving from 130 to hundreds and thousands, probably will end up going as the value creation goes. Everyone will be wanting to get in on the action and innovating on the blockchain. It will be super cheap and super fast. And of course, they have very good security vectors, which obviously Richard Hart team's working on at the moment. So cool on that. Of course, the 4th wave, we're expecting that to come. And of course, that's going to be epic too. Retail mass adoption. We'll get mass adoption there. We'll get wider institutional adoption as well. And of course, looking at NFT metaverse boom as well. That's still relatively early. And of course, that continued to evolve, particularly around gaming, DeFi, and of course, virtual spaces. So we're looking forward to that. The other thing, of course, is entertainment markets as well. Celebrities. We've already got a number of people there in basketball and NFL and all sorts of sports that are already into Hex and obviously into PulseChain with the sacrifices. So it's going to be fun to see that. Now, wider press, of course, we're going to get wider press. Obviously, maybe the coverage like CNBC, Fox Business, and all sorts of stuff like that. We'll see wider press coverage as they realize that PulseChain is one of the most valuable chains out there, and of course, leading in the innovation space. So we get a lot of tech articles, stuff like that coming. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So there's some of the ones. We're obviously going to have a lot of factors that aren't even included on here. They're going to come out. There's things that we just don't know yet. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And of course, there's probably a few things I haven't mentioned. But this is kind of some of the key values here. You can see over time that we're going to have the price going up and down as we move up over time and value the chain up as based on more value in the chain. Now, the other thing, of course, the time frame. The first wave is likely to happen in the first 4 weeks. Of course, 1 to 2 days ratio trading. And of course, all the liquidity pierces up and the thing really starts to ramp everything up from zero. Everything gets priced up. All the popular ERC20s, the unpopular ERC20s, obviously the Richard Hart tokens, PulseX, the incentive token, and Hex. And many other projects, all the native PulseChain projects that's starting to load on as well. It's going to be fun to see. Then, of course, we're going to have 4 to 8 weeks. We're going to have the second wave with all the leveraged lending coming in, the compounders, the utility projects coming in pretty hard. And it's going to be a lot of fun. Some of them may launch actually in the first wave, but for the most part, we're expecting them in week 4 to 8. They also need price calls, oracles. Liquid Loans has already got Talor, which is decentralized oracle. So that's going to be pretty exciting. And so imagine a lot of projects like Fiat and others will probably use those price calls. And that's going to help a robust DeFi and, of course, leverage sector on the PulseChain. On top of that, of course, we're going to have 6 weeks to 6 months there. We're going to have the wave 3, and probably 7 months plus we'll have wave 4, give or take. So some of these projects may launch slightly earlier, slightly later, but it's kind of the time frame. In the meantime, of course, a big X returns potential is there in the hundreds, and then potentially thousands, and potentially, as Overwatch Rack and Rochelle has put down, depending on what the all-time low is, potentially a 10,000x there as well. Now, obviously, it does depend on your circulating supply that you take into account, obviously excluding the origin account, sacrifice accounts, and just the public. That's probably the way to go if in terms of calculating that. So potentially some big X returns in the market. Obviously, if we also launch, as Richard's trying to do, seems to do timing at the bottom of the market, then obviously we can ride it all the way up. Maybe a PulseChain will be one of the chains, if not the chain, that actually helps the boom happen. And of course, we see Hex go up as well. It's going to be a lot of fun. So massive potential for wealth creation here. Good luck to everybody. Hope you enjoyed this one. How fast will PulseChain grow? And hopefully this provides you a few insights on that. All right, don't catch me in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, hit the bell, and I'll catch you next one. Bye for now.